If you have questions that you would like Mark or the leadership team to address, please email them at any time to uwttownhall@uw.edu. If we don't get to your questions during the hour, we will post them on a Q&A with the video of this session. So, and I'm not sure how many we'll be able to get to. I've got some questions that were sent in before the town hall, but you can send them now, and also you can send them after. We will continue to update the Q&A and try to keep it current. So, on the call with us today are Chancellor Pagano, our Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, Jill Purdy, our Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, Mentha Hines-Wilson, our Vice Chancellor for Finance and Administration, Ty Minkler, our Vice Chancellor for Advancement, Josh Knudsen, our Vice Chancellor for Information Technology, Patrick Powell, and our Executive Director of the Office of Global Affairs, amongst other titles, Jeff Cohen. So once we get to the Q&A portion of the town hall, I will call on one of these participants, or maybe multiple participants, to help answer a particular question. And since it's because they have been working hard these past couple weeks to better understand the situation we're in and the details of these questions. So Mark, the floor is yours. And when you're done, we'll go to the Q&A.
Well, thank you, Joe. Appreciate that. And we'll have a lot of folks to thank towards the end of this presentation. But for now, I wanted to say hello. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this very non-traditional town hall that will probably become more and more the norm in the coming weeks. And I know these are very challenging times and uncertain times for all of us as a campus community and really the entire world, the entire community around us. And I want to personally thank each and every one of you for putting our students first. You've been putting your care and attention and quickly pivoting to this new reality. And also, you've come together as a campus community to support each other during this crisis. So I really appreciate all that. And you probably have maybe had a little time to read about a lot of the positive things that are happening, even in the midst of this crisis. And whenever I get a few minutes, I do as well. And I've learned quite a few things. And I thought maybe I would mention a few of them as we get started. One of the things that I really enjoyed reading about was the older couple that was in the grocery store parking lot. I don't know if any of you heard of this, but they were in their 80s and they had their window rolled almost all the way up. They just had a little space there, and they were trying to yell out that they were afraid to go into the grocery store because they were past the age where they were susceptible to this virus. And nobody was paying attention to them. And then a young lady heard them and went over to the car and took down their grocery list and went in and did all the shopping for us. So things like that are happening all around us. I also read about the professional athletes that are stepping up, and they're actually paying the salaries of all the concession workers because, the NBA is shut down right now, minor league baseball. That's fantastic to have these professional athletes who sometimes we don't have the best opinion of. I have a good opinion of many of them, but they're really stepping up and doing a yeoman's task in this crisis. Also, since our schools are shut down all over the country, I know a lot of school districts, the teachers, the staff, they're setting up drive-through meal places where students and their families can come and pick up meals, because a lot of these students, the only solid meal they got each day was at school. So great things happening all around us, happening right here in Tacoma. I don't know if you've been reading about our mayor, but she's been front and center and offering support to renters, to people in the community, and this is really outstanding. She made parking downtown free. I don't know if any of you have run across that. I did yesterday. So that's great news. However, we don't have a lot of places to go downtown right now, so we might not be able to take much advantage of that. But anyway, let's get a little more serious right now. The primary reason that we're having this town hall today is to talk to everybody about what has just been announced in reference to our plans for spring quarter 2020. Now, I don't want to necessarily repeat what's been announced there because you can read those announcements as well as I can. but I do want to clarify some of the things in those announcements and then give time for all of you to ask questions about those. Now, I did want you to let you know that Dr. Jill Purdy and myself, and as many of these other leaders that you'll hear about, have been in these discussions. And I feel that our president worked really, really hard to be great. She went to great lengths to be collaborative in her decision making with her senior staff, with the 2 regional campuses. She really did try to consider all constituents as she made these decisions, but she'll be the first to tell you, and she told us this, that these tough decisions she made, and she's willing to stand behind them, and I'm willing to stand behind these decisions along with her. So I just know when times get tough like this, people's personalities show through, and I'm very thankful to work with a person of her integrity and somebody whose passion is towards all of us that make up the Husky family. So that series of messages began to go out yesterday afternoon. I'm not sure when each person received those. The technology gets backed up a little bit. Some people receive them a half an hour before others, I understand. So by now, though, that you as a constituent should have received a message, whether you're a student, a faculty member, a staff member, or a parent or a family of a staff member. So I don't want to necessarily talk about what is going to happen. You know what is going to happen, along with some boundaries. But those emails really didn't explain how all this is going to happen. And that's what I want to talk to you about for a few minutes. This is up to all of us, the how of how this is going to happen. So I like to refer back to our strategic plan. Now, I know many of you have said to me, boy, you talk about that thing all the time. And I know I do, and I know some of you get weary of that, but I can't help it. For me, it's the guiding document that this campus put together. We did this together. This wasn't Mark, it wasn't the leadership team. This was a community effort. And I find it right now in a time of a crisis like this, both a comfort and actually a very useful tool for us to use as we make decisions moving forward, even in a crisis like this. Now, the title of that, you all know, bring it up closely here, Charting Our Course. You recognize this. I carry it around with me everywhere I go. So Charting Our Course is very useful when you're in this uncharted territory. And I think this is what this is for all of us. I know very few people who've been through a COVID-19 crisis before. So this is new to all of us, uncharted territory. So it's exactly the time that we would use our strategic plan. And it has 6 impact goals that I would like for all of us to remember. And I know you've got them all memorized. Our students, our scholarship, our community, our equity, our growth, and our culture. If we take these impact goals, which really represent our values, and if we continue to use them as we work through this crisis, I think we'll be in really good shape. We're a community that is full of extremely bright and extremely creative people who also happen to be extremely kind, extremely caring. That's exactly what you need in a crisis like this. Smart, kind, caring, creative people. I'm always so proud to serve this campus in the position as Chancellor, but I'm particularly proud to be serving as your Chancellor right now, because the strength and resilience of our faculty, staff, and students during these past few weeks has been powerful. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to tell you all the hows, but I'm pretty confident based on who's going to help us solve this issue and get through us, that we're going to do very well. Now, of course, I will ask all of you to stay within the boundaries, carefully within the boundaries of our official proclamations that have been given to us by our governor. They've been coming at us fast and furiously, but we have people watching them, reading them, listening to them, interpreting them, and we're putting all that into the decisions we make, as long as with national guidelines, and then most recently, these communications from the president, provost, and others. So the scary part is that we probably still have more uncertainty out front of us rather than behind us. Each day, the uncertainty seems to grow. But if you have a document like Charting Our Course, that shouldn't hinder us. We should be able to move forward stronger, smarter, and even more connected. Well, no pun intended on that, but on the other side, we probably will be more connected, both technically, virtually, and to each other. Now, again, I don't want to repeat the letters. Hopefully, you have all received one or more letters from the president or provost or some other officer of the university specifically for you. So hopefully you've read those, and we'll be happy to talk about any clarifications in those letters. But I think we should use our time now maybe to turn to the questions that have been submitted forward. And we do know that a lot more questions came forward as we provided some answers. That's always the case. You provide some answers and more questions come forward, especially in a time like this. So I'm going to turn it back over to Joe. He described a little bit about how he's going to conduct this Q&A, but to repeat, he will take the question and look for the Vice Chancellor, the person on this panel who's most likely to have the clearest answer to that, and go to that person first, and then we can move on from there. So let me turn it back to you, Joe. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mark. So our first question, this is a question for Jill, and it is, I'm wondering if spring quarter classes will be counted as online or in person. For some, in order to graduate with enough online campus credits, they need to be counted as on campus. How are you going to go about dealing with that? So Jill?
Thank you, Joe. Hi, everyone. This is a really important question, and it's actually one we've been looking at for some time with respect to online courses, which are currently not counted as part of the residency requirements for the final credits towards the degree at the University of Washington, even if we are the ones offering the online courses. So the good news is this was already something that the faculty was looking at. This is a question that falls under the purview of faculty governance with respect to graduation standards. And there is legislation moving forward that the faculty hopes to vote on in May that would take care of this problem, which has now become a significant concern for a lot of students, many of whom are going to be taking classes that are designated as online. And we will designate them that way for state and accreditation purposes. So the good news is also that there has long been a workaround to this, and that if for some reason there's a challenge with getting this legislation passed, the registrar's office is working on making sure that all students can graduate without having to submit a petition, so that those online courses this quarter will count towards the residency requirements for graduation.
Thank you, Jill. Actually, at this time, before I ask the next question, I'd like to throw it over to Mentha, who has something that she would like to share.
Thanks, Joe, and thanks to my colleagues who are joining us virtually and to all the UW Tacoma campus community. I want to affirm what Mark has shared earlier. There has been a lot of information that has come forward over the course of the last week or so. And I really want to thank the students for taking the time to read all the information, to unpack it and to digest it, and to reach out to faculty, staff across the campus for additional support. I want students specifically to understand our primary concern at this moment is your health and your safety and your well-being. And that's why all these precautions are being put into place. So in a few moments, you're going to see a slide, and I want to call out just a couple of things for all of us in our campus community to be mindful of. So of course, from all the messages you've heard about practicing social distancing, that's going to be key. So students, I need you to not come to campus. I need you to remain in place for now. Continue to wash your hands with soap and water, keep your hands away from your face, and exercise coughing and sneezing into your elbow. Now, questions have come up. What if I'm exposed, or I think I've been exposed? What should I do, and how is the university going to provide support? So I want everyone to know that there are no cases of COVID-19 on the UW Tacoma campus. And if the slide can come up right now, I will walk you through the 3 steps that we're asking everyone to do if you believe you've been exposed. So first of all, don't go to work, don't be in any public spaces. Second thing is contact your medical care provider. And then the third thing for students, please be in contact with Dr. Bernard Anderson in my office, the Office of Student Affairs, and he will provide information regarding student support services and also to work with you regarding academic accommodations. And for faculty and staff, you are encouraged to contact the UW Environmental Health and Safety team. An email will be going out shortly with their contact information and telephone number. So just wanted to highlight those things for you. And if the slide didn't make it on, we'll make sure that the slide is available at another point in time. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, thanks, Samantha. I don't know that the slide made it up, but we will put it up with the Q&A so that people have that information. So the next question is about Court 17. Is there any sort of relief for the immunocompromised students who have had to leave campus due to the outbreak and are still paying for housing, even though they cannot be around campus? And then also, are there UW policies in place regarding students who wish to opt out of their Court 17 lease? So I don't know if you want to take this, Mentha. I'm sure Ty has a piece of it as well. So
it'll be a team effort. So who wants to begin? Ty, I'll hand it off to you right now.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, certainly. This is no different really than any situation where a student has a health issue, and there's an appeals process that is well documented. The students just need to do that appeal process and show proper documentation regarding the health issue, and we can certainly refund those monies. Regarding the second question, we are following Seattle's lead, which is that we do not want students to double up in their rooms. So we're going to ask students to stay home, except where they want to be just a single person in a room. And so certainly those funds would be refunded for students not actually in their rooms.
And I'll jump in. So Court 17 residents have been phenomenal. They have absolutely been adhering to our requests for social distancing. They have been cleaning their apartments, been making sure that the private bathrooms are clean, as well as the surfaces. And our facilities team is coming in on a daily basis and engaging in cleaning as well. So as Ty or Dr. Winkler mentioned just a moment ago, we are handling those situations on a case-by-case basis. There is an appeal process, and it's my understanding, having talked to Ramon Barunda, who is our Associate Director in Court 17, right now, no students have expressed a desire to leave. But if there is interest, seek out the team. We will work with you and explore what options are viable.
thank you, Mentha. So this next question is for Jill. Is the University of Washington Tacoma providing financial resources for high-speed internet expenses as a teaching resource for online courses for the duration of the 2020 spring quarter?
We made an inquiry about this because we had a number of faculty who were very interested in this question. And unfortunately, we learned that we're not able to use state resources to pay for internet resources in someone's private home. So there is not a capacity to do that with the kind of funding that we have at the University of Washington Tacoma because we are a state agency.
Okay, thank you, Jill. So on a lot of these questions, I've gotten multiple questions down the same path. So what I've tried to do on some of them is paraphrase. So this next question we've received a lot of questions on. It's about student worker pay. So I'm going to paraphrase a lot of the things that have been laid out in those. Student workers across campus are scared about lost wages when their jobs cannot be done remotely or their hours are cut. They can't go find other jobs right now that are typically for students because those jobs don't exist. This is really putting a strain on them and their ability to support themselves. And the questions are, can we continue to pay student workers whose jobs have been essentially eliminated due to this crisis? And what is our plan to help our student workers? So Mentha, could you take that question?
Certainly, I'll take that question. And it's an important question. We know that COVID-19 has really caused a disruption to on and off campus employment. And so to any student assistant or student worker, I would encourage you to contact the Office of Financial Aid if you're experiencing a financial hardship due to lost wages. We did hear from UW Seattle that there is a limited amount of emergency funds centrally to be able to offer assistance on a case-by-case basis. I want to point out also that it's important for students and others to understand that all sources of funding, whether it's from federal work study or the services and activities fee, are regulated by state and federal guidelines that dictate wages can't be paid for hours that aren't worked. That said, we're consulting with the Attorney General to learn if there are exceptions which are permissible, and UW Seattle just a few seconds ago sent a message to me indicating that they are working to see if there are other exceptions given the governor's new extension of unemployment benefits. So stay tuned, more information is coming, but the takeaway is A, contact financial aid, B, talk with your supervisors to see if there are other activities that might indeed be able to be accomplished, though you're not there in the building. And then 3, more information is forthcoming with clarity from UW Seattle around all student workers and their salaries at this time.
Thank you, Mentha. The next question is about our campus finances and campus reserves. So I'll direct it to Ty, and it is, what is the state of the reserve fund? Do we have enough funds to get through any financial exigencies? Should the state cut UW's budget and or if our enrollment should drop precipitously? If our funds are low, then what is your emergency plan?
Of course, this is a big question, and I wish I could answer with absolute certainty that everything is fine. But we are working on the issues day by day. We're tracking the issues as carefully as we can. We certainly have funds to get through any short-term emergency. And we are now talking about putting off non-essential capital projects so that we conserve cash. But it is a developing day-by-day issue that we're tracking very carefully and working with Seattle. I don't anticipate any near-term problems, but we're going to have to be careful and monitor the situation very carefully.
Thank you, Ty. So this next question I'm going to direct to Mark, which is about staff and faculty positions, and there's a couple of questions in this. So will unfilled, unnecessary staff positions be eliminated? When will we know? And are faculty and staff layoffs on the table in the near future, and when will we know? So Mark, do you want to take a shot at that?
Sure, I'll give that a try. And like Ty, we have no definitive long-term answers, but we're going to get through this. Right now, we have absolutely no plans for faculty and staff layoffs. It's a situation, though, just like, it's not just like the snow emergency, but if you can think through the snow emergency when you were off for a week, it's very similar. The background and the policies that go into place are similar to that. If you're an essential employee or if you're teaching a class, of course, your salaries will continue. And all of our supervisors are working with all of our staff to try the best they can to be very creative to give them work or do their work from a distance remotely. And that is working very well. In situations where the work cannot be done remotely and they're not coming to campus, unfortunately, we can't pay you, as Mentha talked earlier. And I have that situation in my own home. My stepson is an employee. He works in the setup crew for conferences, and there is no work in that area right now, so he's not getting any funds, and he'll be fine. Everybody might not be fine in this situation, but unfortunately, we can't pay people that aren't working, but we're making every effort to keep all of our people on the payroll as long as we can, and actually pointing them to resources like the governor's new proclamation for extended unemployment benefits when necessary. But we have no imminent layoffs in the near future. As Ty said, though, we're going to continue to look at our budget and get information out as it develops.
Okay, thank you, Mark. The next question is related to that, and that is, how should those with supervisory responsibilities support their teams during this challenge? We need resources for faculty and staff as well as students. I'm going to add one on that came in while we're talking here, and that is about the teleworking piece and what is expected of staff, and is teleworking required at this point?
And Joe, you're asking me to start that question?
Sure.
Okay, I'm glad to. So I looked into this a little earlier today, and we've received several emails throughout this crisis over the past couple weeks that link us back to an HR page, which explains a lot of the resources available. And much like the resources that are available to students, we've put resources in place to help people through this crisis, no matter what they're experiencing. So if you go to the HR website, it starts out with a webinar. You can actually watch a video that tells you how to cope with the uncertainty of this coronavirus issue that we're going through right now. The course has some tips for coping and for regaining control around your finances, your life, your work, so on and so forth. Below that, there are links to our counseling resources, to legal advice, to financial guidance, how to get help financially, for elder care help, for child care support, work-life solutions. They're all right there. So the university has tried to make available very clearly what resources are in place to help our faculty and staff when they experience difficulties with this crisis. The teleworking piece is each of the other vice chancellors may have a addition for this, but whenever possible, we are trying to make it available for employees to do their work at home. In just a few cases, that's not possible, but whenever there is the possibility of doing your work from home, we're trying to make that available.
Okay, and Jill, did you have something to add to that?
I throw it over to Mentha for a response.
Oh, okay.
All right. So thank you. Yes, the telework option can be a little complicated, but I have to say there's some really great measures in place. First of all, what can we do? We need to take time for ourselves. This really is uncharted territory for our community and for the world. And so it's easy to be inundated and overwhelmed and becoming anxious by just all the information that's coming forward. You all know that I tend to be a bit of an optimist, so I will say to the Tacoma community again, Huskies support each other. We travel in packs. We are a compassionate community, and we will get through this together over the course of time. That said, it's not going to be an easy journey. There are going to be some highs and some lows along the way, but I remain steadfast in knowing that our community, we can do this together. So number one, do indeed take the time to disconnect, unplug every now and again, and not follow all that's happening nationally. Really exercise some mindfulness activities. Number two, compassionate community. Mark started the story early on about the couple who were in the parking lot and they were nervous, didn't know how to go in. We also heard of stories of individuals who are running out of goods. Check in on your neighbor, check in on the people that you work with, be in conversation with them and see how they're doing and also how they can support you. In terms of support services, students, we want you to know that campus services are still operational. So while the doors are closed, many offices, financial aid, academic advising, counseling center, and so on, are providing virtual support. They are talking with individuals via Zoom technology, email, and other sources of technological needs. On the staff side, I can very quickly share with you what we've done over in student affairs. We have, over the course of the last week or so, been moving to a virtual platform. So most of our functions are happening remotely. We've developed a schedule so that some folks are able to come into the office on a case-by-case basis as needed. And we've also created one area that we're referring to as the task area. So anyone who comes into the building, they operate out of that task shop. So I say that to say that, you know, all of the VCs are working with their staffs to be as appropriately creative as we can. There are some assignments that can be done. Patrick has a number of laptops that are available for checkout. So I would say just be in contact with your supervisor, and we will be as flexible as we can, given the resources.
Thank you, Meta. I will add an addendum to your Huskies Travel and Packs. Huskies Travel and Packs at 6 foot distance for the next few months.
I second that.
So the next question is about student technology support. Is there any assistance to students in need of academic resources that cannot access online class technology because of not being able to afford a laptop or computer, or do not have internet access at home? So Patrick, would you like to address that?
Yes, thank you, Joe. Hi, everyone. I'm glad that we can meet together this way, and I know that we'll continue to do that in the next little while. So I'm happy to meet all of you today. And yes, of course, we have support for students. We and the library together have more than 100 laptops, including Mac and PCs, that students can check out. This is through the student technology fee. And I understand that about 90 of them have been checked out. The library has checked out all of them except 3 of them. But in the IT help desk or the lab in WG building still have maybe 10 for student checkout. After the student technology fee, we have more laptops that we have ourselves, that is state-owned, that is in our laptop cards and in other places we can get together. So as Manta also mentioned, the laptop that we have, not only students, but also faculty and staff, if you are in need, you can come to check one out. So how do you do that? We all closed, like libraries closed, all the buildings are closed. We still have people working in the lab, actually. Today and tomorrow, the labs are not closed. The labs is open in WG building. But if you have to get into the building is closed. There's a post in front of the building that says you can call the IT help desk. We'll answer right away and come out and get you into the building and into the lab. Then you can borrow your laptop. So I also did a quick gathering of information. We know that about slightly more than 2% of the students had come to borrow laptop from us. Among those 2%, about 40% of those 2% only borrow it once. So therefore, it's not a lot of people might need a laptop. The students will need a laptop. I think we can definitely support it. You can come to get one. As far as staff and faculty, you can also come to us. I'm saying that we are open today, but also you can contact us through our virtual IT help desk today, tomorrow, and next week. And we are still open in our normal hour virtually. So you can send us a live chat. So you want to come to borrow a laptop, then we'll work with you and what time and how do you want to come in to get that laptop. And we also will receive email and phone calls from you. So the help desk is actually open beyond this week. So you can always contact us to get what you need. Now, as far as the internet is concerned, that's a little bit tricky because in the past you can go to Starbucks, you can go to a lot of places to get your free Wi-Fi. But now most places are closed. There are at least 2 companies that we know of, Comcast and Charter. They are both in our area, not only in Snow Holmes County, Thurston County, and so on. They cover our area. They offer free Wi-Fi for at least a couple of months for those low-income families, students, and so on. The information is on our website, but better still is that, as I said, you can start a live chat with us, or you can send us a message. We'll guide you through. Potentially, you can get the internet access as well. We'll work with you, see where you are and how we can help you. So we want to still provide that kind of help for you.
Thank you, Patrick. So the next question is about disability support and access. Samantha, as we move to online classes, is there any accommodation plan for those who aren't able to access them? For example, students with disabilities.
Thank you so much for that question, Joe. And yes, there actually is an accommodation plan. So Victor Flores over in the Office of Disability and Resource Services, he has been working with faculty members to help them begin the process of moving and being sensitive to the needs of individuals who are in need of accommodations. So I say that to say that the information will be available on the syllabi that are being distributed the spring quarter, but also anyone in need should feel free to reach out to Victor. Victor and Heather have really thought through all the intricacies and are definitely available and ready and eager to talk with any student who is in need of additional support. So contact Victor is the takeaway.
Great. So this next question is about international student support. So Jeff, what are plans in place in helping international students dealing with loved ones that are affected overseas facing COVID-19? Is there a support plan in place?
Yes, thank you for this question. So I want to start by saying that many of those in our community who have loved ones abroad have actually been navigating the impacts of COVID-19 since at least January, depending on where those families are. And so this is something that those members of our community have really been impacted by longer than those that are living here in the US or in the Pacific Northwest. The reality is many of our international students' families are at this point much more worried about their students here in the Puget Sound area, given that our area has been one of the epicenters in the United States. And so we're both trying to find ways to support our students who have family abroad, but also think about how those families are being impacted by their students being here, many of whom are really asking for their students to come home and navigating what that means for their progress to graduation. With that said, we do have supports in place. Our amazing and dedicated staff in the International Student Scholar Services Office are providing remote advising sessions and regular updates to students via email, especially with regards to policies impacting travel, entry into the United States and exit from the United States, closures of embassies, and other kinds of shifting governmental policies that are really changing quite rapidly day to day. So we are keeping our students informed. We're also developing additional formal and informal virtual spaces to provide mutual support and community building among our international student populations. And I want to echo and take this opportunity to echo what Mentha and others have said and remind us that this is really an opportunity for us to continue our work in building and maintaining a supportive, caring, and compassionate community. I think it's really important to reach out to our peers, our colleagues, and offer support. I think even in this time of social distancing, a quick hello, an email or a phone call or a text message just saying, hey, I'm thinking about you, I hope you're okay, let me know if there's things that I can help you with. This is really important at this time. I think that's true not just for international students, but for all members of our community as we think about the impact on our communities.
Thank you, Jeff. So our next question is about future curriculum changes. So send this one to Jill. Are there any plans to assess whether the changes to curriculum and coursework made during this crisis can be implemented long-term to expand higher ed opportunities for people who are currently unable to pursue certain courses because of their inability to be on campus? So kind of a future-looking question.
Yeah, one that I really appreciate too. We have been thinking about an initiative in which we've partnered with the state of Washington to re-engage adult learners. That is, folks who've got some college but haven't completed college. And this was something that was announced through faculty assembly and shared with deans. It's something that we're part of as of the start of March. And one of the projects that we had been thinking about associated with this desire to support educational attainment in Washington State was looking at pathways for adults to complete degrees. And oftentimes, because of work hours, online courses and hybrid courses are great tools for that. So perhaps what this does for faculty is helps them think about what the possibilities might be for those new curriculum pathways or modified curriculum pathways for the degrees that we have that would really expand access to students. Because as the Chancellor would say, if we go back to our strategic plan, we remember we have a compass rose that really focuses on access as well as excellence as part of charting our course. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity here. I think it's going to be down the road once folks have had a chance to think about all the adapting that needs to be done through spring quarter. Then I hope we'll have some time in the future to be able to step back and think about this issue. Joe, you're muted.
Joe, you're muted. Thank you, Josh. Jill, the next question's for you. And it's, I'm going to try to combine a couple of questions here. One came in before our deal, and a couple have come in during, and it has to do with lab classes. So for students in the STEM majors that require lab work, how will materials be accommodated? And let's see, there were a couple more questions here. So is it the intent of courses that have a lab component that we do not offer in-person labs, and if possible, provide a distance learning component? Basically, what is our plan with lab-based classes?
This was one of the areas that I asked some really specific questions about to the provost, because in reading the governor's proclamation, it seemed that there were some exceptions built in for lab work and for clinical education, for example, in the medical school, the dental school. The clarification we received from the University of Washington is that we will not have any in-person lab meetings. We will not teach courses in labs in the spring quarter. And that is really due to the desire to protect everyone's health. That means that our lab courses will, if possible, through the creativity of our faculty, be offered as online courses, and our faculty will very quickly be assessing what's possible and what's not possible, and making adjustments to the course schedule. If a class, it absolutely cannot be offered in person without hands-on specialized equipment, the course may be canceled. And our advice is that we are going to, from a curriculum perspective, identify substitute courses that students can take that will allow them to continue earning the credits that they need to progress towards their degree. The 180 credit degree requirement remains in place. We understand that there may need to be some waivers of graduation requirements in certain majors, or some rearranging of how courses are offered in sequence in some majors, in order to be able to accommodate the online learning. But for now, we will be refunding fees for lab classes if they were intended for the materials needed for that class. And students will be notified if their lab course is not able to continue online, and will be directed to register for other courses instead.
Thank you. So this next question is about technology access. For classes that require specific course programs, such as software, coding or Adobe, and that are only available on school computers, how are students going to access these materials? So I think Patrick is probably the best to answer that one.
Yes, Joe, thank you. Me and my team have been thinking about this all along. How do we support the computer related classes? We have 9 computer classrooms on campus. They all installed with different software, so 5 of them especially are installed with very specialized software in different sorts. So we've been working on this. Even not just those ones, but all 9 of them, we are figuring out a way to turn them into be able to connect remote access to those computers called remote desktop. What we're trying to do is that even nobody in the classrooms, that night classroom, all the machine will be turned on, and we are figuring out a way for those machines can be accessed remotely by faculty members and also by students. So in essence, they can still teach or run those classes. We're still working on it. We know who will be teaching those courses in spring quarter. At the same time, we also would urge you, if you're teaching it, if you're a student, please get in touch with us. Again, for the same way, we have a live chat, we have a telephone available for you to call, and we have email access and so on, a web form. You can contact us, we'll guide you through how to be able to use those computers in the computer classrooms. And we're also working on a second initiative that also we're trying to use the cloud to be specific. We're going to use Azure, Microsoft Azure. We will set up something called a virtual lab. So some of the software that you refer to, your classes, will be in the virtual lab that is in the cloud. Again, we are also setting up, depending on the situation, we may put some of the access there. And last but not least, you know, we have some open labs in WG 108 and also in CP 005. We are in the process also turning those machines into sort of like be able to access virtually, called whether for VDI or DAS, into those machines. In other words, even if you need just to use some of the specified software outside the classroom, just in the past you drop into the lab, you can use it then. But we're also trying to figure out a way that you don't have to come into the lab. You can also access those machine and specialized software remotely. That's what we're working on. And we'll have more information I'll put on the website, but specifically you can contact us. I think that's better because in each case it's different. A different specialized software, we may not treat them the same. So we would really like to work with the faculty who is teaching these classes and the student you are taking those courses. And also, if you don't have the hardware already we mentioned earlier, then you can come to us. We'll make sure you have the hardware can access remotely with those hardware. We'll loan it.
Thank you, Patrick. So the next two questions have to do with transportation issues. So Ty, I'm going to ask you to address them. First one is about parking, our perpetual problem of parking on campus. Parking around here is great now, but preferably we prefer not to do it this way. But parking passes, so for people who bought parking passes, will that be refunded? So Ty, if you could address that, and then I'll give you the second question now too, so you can do them both. So I was wondering if most students still need UPass for spring quarter as they don't need to go to campus anymore. So basically the question about UPasses and students being charged for UPasses. So Ty, could you address that?
Yeah, thank you, Joe. These are good questions, and we're working through all of the questions and questions like them as this situation develops daily. Just learned, I think it was just yesterday, that we're not going to have in-person classes for all of spring. So I think it would be absolutely essential that we refund parking for both students and faculty and staff. And the same with UPass. Although we haven't discussed this with Seattle yet, we want to make sure we're in concert with Seattle. UPass is a little bit more complicated, but I'm assuming we will do the same thing.
Thank you. So Jill, next question is about Practicum courses. What about the schools that have Practicum requirements where sites are closed? How will that be accommodated for students? So Jill?
This is a challenging area because we have quite a few areas at UW Tacoma that have different kinds of practicum and requirements, and those are linked to accreditation requirements and certification requirements and licenses to practice. And so we are navigating state and federal guidelines as well as university accreditation requirements. And in every case, our partnerships with those organizations where students are placed. Many of those are healthcare and social and human services organizations. and we need to be able to collaborate with them in order to make things happen. And so what we'll be doing is, as those negotiations unfold and we learn more about what is possible and what is not possible, we'll be providing information directly from the schools that are most affected by these expectations around field practicum credits. In areas, for example, like teacher certification, the School of Education will be providing information. In areas like social work, the School of Social Work and Criminal Justice will be providing information. And areas like nursing, the School of Nursing and Healthcare Leadership will provide that information going forward. And as soon as we have some answers, we'll get them out to students as quickly as possible.
Great, thank you. Back to Patrick for another technology question around, from a staff member about work computers. Will it be possible for staff who are telecommuting to take their work computers home instead of having to continue to use remote access for the extended telecommute guidelines?
The short answer is yes. But of course, we had, as Mentor and I talked about earlier, we do have some laptop. You need a laptop, whether faculty or staff. You can borrow from us. But I guess we will eventually run out of those. If all 750 faculty and staff want to come to borrow a laptop from us, we just don't have that many. We'll have maybe about 150 or so. So yes, we are open to that. So please contact us again. Again, this is very unique individual. We may have to help you to even take apart your current computer, depending on what you have. And we also need to have a record of what you're doing if you want to take one home. But we are open to that. But please contact us, contact Tech Help or the IT Help Desk. Then we'll help you to let you bring your computer home to work.
Thank you, Patrick. A follow-up question on the lab one, Jill, and that is, can students come to campus to pick up materials to do labs at home?
I'm not sure I know the answer to that one.
Yeah.
It is very likely that that is going to be challenging because our buildings are closed. And if that was necessary and if it was possible, we would have to follow all the public health guidelines and maintain safe social distancing in order to make that occur. I think as the course designs for lab and similar courses in the spring quarter are figured out, we will look at what the possibilities are within the guidelines of both the state, federal, and the university.
Great. So, and then another question for you around conference services. When will it be feasible to reopen campus for reservations and event programming?
I think that one also is going to be dependent upon public health guidelines. And because the UW is a single university, we have in Pierce County been lagging behind the events in King County in terms of infection rates and such. But to our advantage, I think, as a university, we have been following the strictest guidelines that have been out there, which have initially been emanating from King County. And so our response to that is when UW says it's okay, when public health says it's okay, and when our community partners begin seeking it out again, and we all feel comfortable that everyone will remain safe.
Yeah. So, and the last question is for you as well. Summer courses. I was wondering how this would impact summer classes. Like, would they be online as well? I understand that predicting what the future would look like is difficult, but can you give us an estimate when you'll announce what summer classes will look like?
That's a terrific question, and we have had a lot of conversation already about the impact on summer quarter, even as we're trying to finish winter quarter and plan for spring quarter. Our first priority in summer quarter would be to, again, ensure that everyone is safe. And I will say that we always have a higher percentage of summer quarter courses that are offered online anyway. So I think it's safe to say that we will have a substantial number of online course offerings this summer. And those courses ideally will be the ones that students most need in order to stay on track to a timely graduation with the degree that they choose. And if we are not able to offer anything online, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But we do plan to move ahead with summer quarter as planned, which has a fair proportion of online courses already. Don't have a definitive answer on whether campus will be open, but our summer registration is still a couple months away, so we've got a little bit of time to figure it out.
Thank you. And we're getting down to the end of our time, but I would like to squeeze one last one in for Mentha, and it's, could you provide an update on career services and how students will be able to meet with recruiters? If you have an answer or thoughts about that, Mentha?
I do. So the question relates to career services and how students are able to receive support from that area. So Dawn and her team, like all the others, have really moved to a virtual platform. And so employers are connecting with them, scheduling appointments, and linking the two together. So I would say any student that has questions, they should still be in contact with Dawn or with Kat. There are employers who are still very interested in recruiting UW Tacoma students. And so we want to continue that pipeline continues on. So please be in contact with Dawn. She's available via email, virtual. In fact, if you go to the Student Affairs website within the next couple of days, we will have an update that provides really cleaner information, more streamlined information about who to contact and how. So takeaway, yes, employers are still seeking out our students. Students should still be in contact with career services. And there is a method for us to link the two together during this uncharted territory, while we're in this uncharted territory.
Yeah, thank you, Mentha. So there's a lot more questions that have come in while we've been talking, but we're to the end of our hour. I want you to know that you can continue sending in questions as well after this to UWT Town Hall at uw.edu. Continue sending in your questions. We will create a Q&A page where we post the answers to these and attempt to the degree that we can to answer them to the best of our ability. So, and because things are changing quickly in this environment, we'll continue to kind of update those answers as we get better information. So I apologize to those questioners that we weren't able to get to, but know that we will address your questions and get them answered as we move forward. So I'd like to turn it back to Mark to close things up for our alternative March Town Hall.
Yes, thank you very much, Joe. And let me kind of sum it up by thanking everyone here. And I realize this wasn't, essentially Netflix or Hulu, but hopefully you enjoyed learning a little more about what is happening here on campus and for spring quarter, and hopefully you're feeling that things are in pretty good hands. And I wanted to tell you that I passed my 5-year anniversary this week, so it's getting to be a long time ago. But you may remember when I first came, one of the statements I made is, I think it was a question, is that I like to do my people work before my paperwork. And I think this certainly applies right now. In all of these things, you heard a theme run through all of these answers, and I feel very good about our staff that people are first. They're our priority in every one of these decisions. And of course, we're going to be good stewards of our finances. We're going to be good stewards of our facilities. But first and foremost, our people will be our priority as we move through all this. So I also wanted to thank Joe Lawless and John Burkhart for doing a lot of the organizing, but right behind them was a fantastic technical crew, Mark DePaul, Josh Gibson, Paul Lovelady. And then the stars of this show were actually the panelists who you heard quite frequently from. They were the stars of the show, and hopefully after you saw these answers today, we're very fortunate to have this wonderful, talented, caring leadership team who's here working hand in hand with me as we navigate through this process moving forward. So I also want to tell you that we've had multiple calls from our donors, from families and friends of this institution who are stepping up and trying to figure out ways that they can be helpful in going through some of these crises that we have, and in many cases our students, but our faculty and staff as well. So we'll be meeting with them more. We've met with some of them already and talking through how their resources might be best utilized to get us through this. So we're always thrilled to have great community members and friends of the university behind us. So I just want to end by saying, please be safe, take care of yourself, take care of your families, and bring your best self to this challenge, and we'll be in really good shape if everybody does that. So go Huskies, and we'll see you later.